Hey everyone, welcome. Sports and Shorts of Sorts, episode 25, quarter century, y'all. Thanks for coming along. Let's jump right into some of our Jersey episode correlations here. So, when you think of number 25, there's one that sticks out from my childhood above the rest. The notorious Barry Bonds. He wore 24 in Pittsburgh, but that number was retired with the Giants because of Willie Mays. But Barry Bonds, man, he's the home run king. Whether you like it or not, he's got 762 over his career. He owns a single season record with 73, which was set in 2001. And, people feared Bonds at the plate. Like, he holds the record for most walks at 2,558, almost 400 ahead of second place Ricky Henderson. And, some say his home run record should have an asterisk next to it. And it's because Bonds has been linked with permanent performance enhancers in the latter part of his illustrious career. Like, he was Hall of Fame before any of this stuff happened, so you gotta question why. But it's a good Netflix show right now. Well, it's a cool series called Untold, where they jump into different sports topics. Like, we watched the Johnny Football one. It's really good. But we also watched the Hall of Shame, and it went into the Balco investigation, the one in these labs in San Francisco with Victor Conte, and he was working with athletes, and Barry Bonds was one of them. And he says he never gave them steroids or anything. And with this clear they had, it was undetectable. So it's hard to say. He said he never totally gave it to him, but he believes that he took them with what they had found. But regardless, that's something that'll always stick with him, and that is basically the reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame after his 10 years of eligibility. So we'll see if he gets in later down the lines and how they want to handle the whole steroid era, if you would, but we'll see. But man, his numbers are outrageous. 14-time All-Star, seven-time National League MVP, 8 Gold Gloves, 12 Silver Sluggers, son of former Major Leaguer Bobby Bonds. He went to Pittsburgh, thrived in Steeltown, emerging as one of the best young guys. And he was significantly smaller than what he would end up being at the end of his career in San Francisco. But, his number 25 is retired with the Giants. He's on the Wall of Fame. Again, not in the Hall of Fame for those reasons I before mentioned, but we'll see if he ever gets in. It's wild. But sticking with crushers of baseball, the next 25, Big Mac, Mark McGwire. He arrived in Oakland to play with the A's and won Rookie of the Year in '87, year of my birth. But he hit a rookie record, 49 home runs. It stood until Aaron Judge broke that in 2017 with 52 dingers. But yeah, McGuire with Bash brother Jose Canseco. Wow, we'll get there. He dropped bombs for the Athletics. They won the World Series in '89. And I don't know if you've watched this ridiculous show, The Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience by The Lonely Island. If you're familiar with The Lonely Island, you know what you're getting into. It's ridiculous. I think a little far-fetched, but showed you what kind of shit was going down in Oakland. But McGuire would win a World Series with the Cardinals in 2011. He made 12 All-Star games, 3 Silver Sluggers with his 1 Golden Glove, and he's 11th on the all-time home run list with 583. And everybody remembers the classic battle in '98. I remember this as a kid, and I wasn't even I was a little into watching baseball, but this got everybody talking about it. His duel with Sammy Sosa in the chase of the home run single record. McGuire ended up winning the race and getting to 62, passing Roger Maris in the process. But that record would only last before the before mentioned Barry Bonds broke it in 2001. And similar to Bonds, Mark McGwire has also not been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame for his allegations and involvements with PEDs. And I guess when you're wearing 25 in baseball, you're destined to smash dingers. Our next mention, Jim Thome. Thome bounced around a bit in his career playing for 6 teams, but he's mostly known for being with the Cleveland franchise, where his 25 is retired. And he's 8th on the all-time home run list with 612. An elite member of the 600 home run club. There are only 9 members of said club. And he was also walked the seventh most times in history. He played 5 All-Star games, and the kicker, he's never been linked with PEDs throughout his career. As you saw him later in his career, he had the Red City bod going. So I don't think there were any links there, but he did get inducted in 2018, and he had made it to a World Series, like I said, with Cleveland, but he does not have a ring, unfortunate. But another dinger smasher, number 25, Rafael Palmeiro, 13th on the all-time home run list with 569, and he's part of the elusive 3,000 hit club. But much like the jersey-wearing fraternity here, Palmeiro has been linked with performance-enhancing drugs and is still not in the Hall of Fame because of it. The Cuban-born Palmeiro played for the Cubs, Rangers, and Orioles, making 4 All-Stars along the way. The last diamond baller I'll mention, Andrew Jones, known for his time with the Braves, 5-time All-Star, 10-time Golden Glove, and he'll be getting his number 25 retired in Atlanta September 9th. So, yeah, good for him. And one more special shout-out, I guess, Carlos Delgado. You might remember that name as a Blue Jay, rocked the number 25. I had to throw that in there. But, yeah, a lot of baseball players. Well, let's jump to the court real quick. The only one that really came to my mind, Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry, 7-time NBA champion. That's right. 2 with the Rockets and Hakeem, 3 with the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, and 2 with Timmy D and the Spurs. So he rocked the 5 in LA as Gail Goodrich has his number retired with the Lakers. Shout out to Gail Goodrich, a dynamite scorer in the early days of the Lakers. And but yeah, Big Shot Bob earned that name wherever he went. He'd hit shots big. We all know that one where against the Kings, the the series where there's another untold about Donaghy, the referee, being involved with the mob, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, Divock tipped it out. Nothing a ref could call here, or he caught it, splashed it. Beautiful shot. Or you could think of the one he did with my Spurs against the Pistons. Rasheed Wallace kind of went in the corner to double team Manu Ginobili, leaving Big Shot Bob wide open for the clutch 3. But, not a lot of guys win 7 titles. So he was doing something right, being a part of all that. And another deserving 25 is Mark Price. What he did with the Cleveland Cavs before injury was something else. He was like Steve Nash before Steve Nash, Him and Brad Daugherty had that lethal 1-2 combo that just couldn't get out of the tough Eastern Conference in the late 80s, early 90s with the Celtics, the Pistons on the rise, the Bulls. Yeah, it was tough. But Price made 4 All-Star games, won 2 3-point contests, right? And yeah, he made a first NBA first team, which is amazing. He made 3 All-NBA third teams. But again, injuries, derailed what was a promising career. And at that height, once you lose your quickness, it kind of... Yeah. But yeah, a few other ballers to wear the 25. Doc, right? Doc Rivers, we mostly know him as a coach, but he's a good baller. His son, Austin Rivers, he's wearing the number 25 a lot as well. But some female ballers, Becky Hammon, she lit it up in the WNBA. She's current coach of the Las Vegas Aces. She was an assistant with Greg Pop in San Antonio. And she actually went to the Hall of Fame with Popovich not that long ago. We talked about it on this very podcast. So... yeah, there's some good 25s. And the last one is current WNBA player, Alyssa Thomas, the Connecticut Sun. She's been doing her thing, rocking triple-doubles this year for a dangerous Connecticut team. But we'll jump to the gridiron real quick. And Seattle's Legion of Boom. I got to talk with Richard Sherman. Sherman was feared all over. Remember his trash talk after Crabtree calling him a sorry-ass receiver, basically. But he could cover and lay the smack down. He won the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, like I said, with that Legion of Boom team. 3 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team, 5-time All-Star. Man, something else. But going before my time, I got to mention Fred Biletnikoff. They give the College Award for Best Wide Receiver, and it's named after him, so he's got to do something right. He won the Super Bowl with the Raiders, where he was Super Bowl MVP. He's a Pro Bowler in the NFL, All-Star in the AFL, and he even played with the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL, so good on him. College football and pro football Hall of Fames. 2 running backs that were worthy wearing the 25, LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles. Good careers for them. Last mention of the jerseys, we're going to hockey, and the only one that came to mind, Joe Nieuwendyk, right? Haven't heard that name in a while. 3-time Stanley Cup winner. Got one with Calgary, one with Dallas, and one with the Devils. Remember that legendary 2002 Olympic gold winning team in Salt Lake City, which I've mentioned on here a bunch. What a team. But he also won the Calder Trophy for the Rookie of the Year and 4 Conn Smythes. And the Conn Smythe for his epic run they had in Dallas with the Stars there. But yeah, some pretty good jersey mentions. But it's been a wild week in sports, so I'll do the best to knock it out of the park. PED free, by the way. So I'll start the NBA. You're like, what? It's the off season, but there's some pretty big news coming from the NBA, and it's coming from Canada's team, right? It was announced New York Knicks are suing the Toronto Raptors. That's right. As well as their parent company, the Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. The Knicks are alleging former employee, I hope I get his name right, Achikwu Azatam. He joined the Raptors, leaving the Knicks, and it's alleged that, he might have took some shit with him. They're alleging that the staff of the Raptors, the new coach, Darko Rajakovic, and his staff and a bunch of other 10 unnamed John Does are all getting sued. And in this lawsuit, it alleges Azatam, who worked as role a director of video analytics and player development, stole proprietary information, which includes scouting reports, frequency reports, prep book, third-party licensed software. And this shows that Azatam, once he informed he was going to Toronto, he started sending shit to his own personal account. Like, not just a few things. Like, they're saying more than 3,000 files with film and data. They also discovered that on August 15th, those files were accessed over 2,000 times by the people involved. And in the suit, I got to quote this. As a first-time NBA head coach, defendant Rajakovic would be expected to bring his own organizational structure and coaching method. Apparently, given his non-traditional path to his head coaching job, the defendant did not have his own, so he chose to exploit the Knicks' methods. So it's basically saying this new coach wasn't ready to step in and have everything set up for him. He's been a long-time assistant, so he was using recruiting as a time to come in from the Knicks and basically bring all their shit. Like, some of the proprietary information is confidential. One email had the subject line, "Forward, Indiana Game 82," and it was full of scouting reports as well as plays they call. Another email with the Denver Nuggets was sent out. Like, we all get going to your new employer and, you want to bring some info over, help out, but this is against the law. Like, this has gone to the next point, sending it to your personal information, confidential information. Shit's gone real here. And, like, there's already a huge target on Darko Rajakovic's back. I don't even know if I'm getting his name right. Like, he's a rookie coach coming in the NBA to run his first team. He's been a great assistant, but there's a difference between assistant and that guy. So we'll see. Like, this is a transition from Nick Nurse to this guy. Masai's putting it all in on this guy, and yeah, we'll see what happens. This is far from being over. We haven't finished hearing about this, and we'll see what happens. You want to have the edge on the team and try to gain advantages, but much like the PEDs I was talking about earlier, there's a line. It sounds like the Raptors may have crossed it, so we'll see. Excuse me. Sticking with the NBA, I got to go more on this James Harden saga. We all remember Harden coming out, calling Morey a liar, saying he's never playing for them again. And then Harden got fined $100,000. I know you can't talk shit about your boss, but let's be real. What was the real thing here? And digging in further, I guess it's the public the public expressed desire to be traded to another team. And that is what warranted the suspension. He didn't indirectly use it like a lot of players that demand trades do. He straight up and he told the truth in this investigation. He said, yo, this motherfucker lied to me. He said I was going to do this and he's going to trade me. I didn't get traded. He lied. And he was honest, and that honesty cost him $100,000. So, shit. Yeah, like, there was an interview last week. Someone was interviewing Damian Lillard and asked about the trade request, and he said, no, I'm not talking about that. He didn't want to get fined just for mentioning something that he shouldn't have. But what a weird life of sports here. But some kind of happy but coming with sad news in the NBA. The Lakers announced they'll honor the late Kobe Bryant with a statue at Crypto.com Arena. Next year, they're going to be doing it February 24th. Or February 8th, 24th. So it's 2/8/24. 2 is Gigi's number. 8 and 24, obviously, Kobe's numbers. It's good he's getting a statue. It's still fucked up. He's gone. I can't believe that. Helicopter crash still happened, but yeah, at least he's getting a statue. It's something people can remember him from, but wow. Well, we'll stick with hoops. We started with hoops. Let's stick with it. The FIBA World Cup. I was hyping it up here, and I was hyping up Canada. And Canada's been like, yo, we got you. We'll back up this talk. They dominated France. Like France came in pre-tournament favorites, and they got dominated by Canada. It was pretty one-sided. And then like France followed that up by playing Latvia and letting that game get away from them. Latvia got their first lead of the game with 37.7 seconds to go. They held on for the upset, which has knocked France out of the tournament. They cannot advance to the knockout stage. It's a massive shock. People had them winning. Sure, they didn't have Embiid or Wembanyama playing, but they didn't have those guys when they got the silver medal in the Olympics. So massive shock. But big ups to Latvia. That's a massive win for them. So, yeah, yikes. Another pre-tournament favorite, Australia, found themselves in a little bit of a pickle. They beat down on Finland and Lauri Markkanen in the first game, but they ran into a German wall. No, not that wall. But this was a great back and forth game that could have gone either way. Bonehead decisions by the Boomers late, some costly turnovers, Patty Mills losing it in the scrum of people, and clutch shot making by the Germans, especially Dennis Schroeder, new Raptor. He led them to victory in that one. It was pretty amazing. And like Germany had already beaten Japan in their first match, so they lead the group going to the final match. They're pretty much advancing. But this game is even bigger because of the end result of that other group match between Finland and Japan. Finland was up big halfway through the third quarter, but then Japan put on this huge comeback, led by the 22-year-old Kawamura, who could not miss. The 5'8" Japanese guard like lit it up, helping Japan beat a European team for the first time in World Cup history. So good on them. Like I said, Germany has punched their ticket to the next round, but Australia and Japan, that game will decide who joins them. That'll be a very big one. And the Boomers are looking to, they feel like they shouldn't even be in this spot. Japan's riding high. Like, I feel Australia should take that, but who knows, right? And Group A has some wild results. Dominican Republic looked great. They had a tough game against the Philippines, but they pulled it out. In the Philippines, they had two crushing losses, like that one against the Dominican Republic, and then they lost it late against Angola. So, yeah, if Italy beats the Philippines, they should advance. Italy had just lost to the Dominican as well. And the Dominican's looking pretty good. And the Dominican should beat Angola, which would have Italy and the Dominican Republic advancing. However, if Angola shocks the Dominican, we got a shit show. And sometimes shit shows happen. You just got to sit back and enjoy it. The other group that has had 2 games played at the time of this recording is Group D. Lithuania and Montenegro have been head and shoulders above Egypt and Mexico. Easy advancements for them. And by the time this podcast will air on the interweb, if that's what people are still calling it, the USA should be playing their second game against the Giannis-less Greece team, and they should take care of them. They look shaky against New Zealand, but once they found their rhythm, they blew them out. Austin Reeves came off the bench and has been doing great. Brandon Ingram's still kind of questioning what his role is on the team because he's usually a stud scorer, but he's struggling to find that stroke here. But yeah, Austin Reeves has been doing his thing. But that game against New Zealand, yeah, they were a little shaky. So it was good to see them pull it out. They should take the group. Serbia looks to take their group. Still unsure about Puerto Rico and South Sudan. They had a wild OT game that could have went either way before Puerto Rico pulled it out. And Luka and his Slovenia team kind of struggled against Venezuela. They got the dub. And Georgia looked really good against Cape Verde. I know the competition's a little different, but that Slovenia-Georgia matchup should be pretty good. And that should be airing by the time this airs. So should be interesting to see who gets a stranglehold on that group. Thinking Slovenia should, but I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia took them down. They got a few NBA ballers that are pretty good, especially Goga Bitadze. He's pretty good. And yeah, last group I'll mention, it's an exciting one. Spain and Brazil kind of look like the front runners in that over Ivory Coast and Iran. And another one that should be playing as this airs, Spain and Brazil. Like, that should be a dandy, but the time difference kind of sucks with the games being on in Japan and the Philippines and Indonesia. But if you can check them out, there's some good ball going on. I mean, YouTube highlights, they have some pretty good ones. We'll leave the court for the diamond. We'll talk some still whack news, the whole Wander Franco situation. He's on administrative leave now, as predicted on last episode of this podcast. This will extend Franco's time away from the Rays for an unknown period of time. Like, the central offices for the MLB and the authorities in the Dominican Republic have separate investigations into the allegations that Franco had an inappropriate relationship with a minor, possibly child. Franco he's been away from the team since August 13th. The Rays they're still trucking along, but man, this is big news. We'll go to more disappointing news. The White Sox, they've had such a down year, and Jerry Reinsdorf, a loyal guy, sticks with his guys. He got rid of Ken Williams and Rick Hahn. Very disappointing year, but Williams became the GM of the White Sox in 2000 before becoming executive vice president. And Rick Hahn would take that general manager position when Williams got promoted. So they've been with the organization a long time, especially Williams. But it just shows you where the White Sox expected to be and how happy or unhappy they are with where they are. But sticking with a team that's kind of disappointing lately, the Toronto Blue Jays. Yikes. They had their last season series against the tough Orioles, and it kind of got off to a great start. Jays won the first game in extra inning. Brandon Belt in the 10th helped them get that win. Second and third games kind of went more par for the course on the season. Anthony Santander, man, his home runs in that second game, they were like nice golf swings, real low, crushed them out, 7-0 victory. The rubber match... Ugh. Another one, the Orioles just gave it to the Jays. The only silver lining is I guess the Jays don't play the Orioles the remaining regular season. But yeah, the Jays, they left Camden Yard, returned home to have a little bout with Cleveland Guardians, and first game went Cleveland's way thanks to the Canadian nailer and Ramon Laureano doing most of the damage. The Jays would bounce back in game 2, and the bats would help even the series. So there we go, another rubber match, another chance to win a series, and this one was close. In the 8th inning, the Jays would tie it up, meaning again we'd need extra innings for the Jays, and yeah, the 10th wouldn't do anything. The 11th, Cole Calhoun would hit a 2-run double. This was followed by a Laureano 2-run home run. Jays would pick up 1 run in the bottom of the inning, but it wasn't enough. The Guardians took the victory, took the series. And Syndergaard, who started that Sunday game, he was sent down for assignment directly after the game. He hasn't been up to nearly his potential, but we'll see if this assignment helps him. Because, they'd like to make a little push here too, but we'll see what happens with them. The Jays have, 3 games standing against the Washington Nationals before they head out west, take on Colorado for a 3-game series. A very important week for Toronto to help stay out in the playoff races here, but... Other news around the association, or the Major League Baseball, I guess not association, but other news, Shohei Ohtani, in his game against the Reds, he kind of grimaced after smashing another home run, and the very next inning, his velocity looked down. He'd leave the game. Of course, the Angels lost to the Reds, but then they found out, even worse news, Shohei Ohtani tore his ulnar collateral ligament, the old UCL, and will no longer pitch this season. GM Perry Minison sounded disgusting talking about it. Year disappointment continues to trend that way, and now they have an injured superstar who may still hit for them, but is not going to pitch. And it's looking like no playoffs, and it's looking like Shohei's going to walk in the free agency at the end of this season. It's a lose-lose situation for LA for sure. But other news in baseball, Washington Nationals longtime ace Steven Strasburg decided to retire. Former number 1 pick, 2019 World Series MVP, dealt with injuries most of his career, and he's pitched only 8 games since that magical 2019 season. But injuries would prove to be the final nail in the coffin. Couldn't overcome complications from a thoracic outlet syndrome. He had surgery for the nerve and blood disorder, which involved removing a rib and 2 neck muscles. Yikes. But, man, when he played, he was one of the dominant pitchers in the game. That's the only thing when he played. Sad to see someone retire because of injuries. And it's kind of rough for the Nationals because, they're not excited losing this guy. A guy who was great but's been injured. It's been loyal. They've been loyal. But that contract was not insurable with Strasburg's injury history. So Strasburg will continue to be paid $35 million annually through 2026, with about $11.4 million deferred each year. Then he will receive $26.6 million in 2027, 28, and 29 in his own deferred payments. So, yikes, a lot of money going out to a guy that's not going to be playing. I mean, good for him. He earned that money, and by pitching as long as he did in 2019, there would probably be ramifications. You wouldn't expect him to have to retire, but injuries, they suck, yo. But, in between the week of podcast episodes, the standings have gone batshit crazy. The AL East is still being run by the Orioles. The Rays nipping at their heels, just 2 games back. It's a two-horse race. Toronto's pretty far back from looking at that division crown. Central AL Central is being owned by the only plus 500 team, the Minnesota Twins. AL West is where things are wild, wild. Streaking Seattle Mariners. We were talking about them like wanting to be in the wild card sitch. They've climbed all the way back and taken sole position of the AL West. Yikes. They have a 1 game advantage over the Rangers and Astros, who are tied for that second spot. The Rangers have been slumping at the wrong time, like winning one of their last 10. This makes the wild card even wilder. Like Tampa Bay, Texas, and Houston have those 3 spots. The Jays are on the outside looking in with their shit hawk of play lately. 2.5 games behind the Astros and Rangers. And the Red Sox are only 4.5 behind those teams as well. But the NL things are looking a little clear. You know, the broken record segment of MLB talk. The Atlanta Braves still looking great. Dominating the NL East. The NL West features domination as well. The Dodgers are 12 games ahead of the Diamondbacks. The NL Central is a little closer. You got the Brewers leading the division, 4 games ahead of the Cubs, 6 ahead of the Reds. The wild card spots are currently being held by the Phillies, Cubs, and Diamondbacks. But the Giants and Reds are just 1.5 back, and the Marlins are 3 games back. The Padres and Nationals are hanging around with slim hopes at 8 games back in the wild card spot, but there's still a solid month of baseball to go before we gets decided who plays who. And now we'll jump to footy. Again, huge news. Huge news is kind of overshadowing everything. And this one goes to Spain. Spain's soccer chief, Luis Rubiales, has been taking all the spotlight away from the Spanish women's football team that just won the World Cup. Instead of dealing with celebrations, they're dealing with wrongdoings of a man. Something I'm sure women have dealt with their whole lives. But this guy, he planted the lips on Spanish star Jenny Hermoso after they won. Totally right on. She just looked shocked, but you know, this guy just grabbed her and kissed her on the lips, and she's like, what? And everybody's been like, dude, was this consensual or what? She's saying she didn't. You know, she didn't ask for that. He just went and did it. It was congratulations. She didn't know what to do. Because they're like, she didn't react in that moment. It's like, man, it just all happened so fast, right? And he's claiming it was a kiss he planted on someone with consent. There's nothing to it. A celebratory moment between friends. Like I said, Hermoso does not feel the same way, and she has said so. But Rubiales doesn't seem to care. Again, saying he's done nothing wrong. The kiss was consensual. He has refused to resign over the incident. All 23 members of Spain's World Cup winning squad, including Hermoso, and nearly 50 other professional footy players said they would not play again for the country unless Rubiales is removed from the position. Surprisingly, the Royal Spanish Football Federation has stood by their president, even threatening legal action against Hermoso, saying the federation has said players have an obligation to participate in matches. Over the weekend, the federation doubled down on its accusations of lying. In a since-deleted statement, they said, we have to state that Ms. Jennifer Hermoso lies in every statement she makes against the president, and again threatened legal action. It is unclear why they decided to delete that statement from their site, but wow. And then just announced, like, overnight here, that the governing body, FIFA, is suspending Rubiales from all football-related activities at national and international level for 90 days while disciplinary proceedings are underway. Holy shit, this story just keeps fucking escalating. Like, this guy just needs to resign, but he's putting his feet in the ground and saying, I kissed that woman and she enjoyed it. So this is fucked up. Like, it's obviously assault. The guy just needs to back out and say, I fucked up, but he's not. He's sticking to his guns and saying he did nothing wrong. So until we can say that he did do something wrong, which we should, because this needs to get nipped in the bud right now. We don't need this trend to continue, but keep your eyes on this story. This one is, again, another one that's far from over. But from stories to the actual pitch, match day 3 of the Premier League went down, and there were some dandies. Chelsea had a brace from Raheem Sterling and Nicholas Jackson's first goal with the club to take a 3-0 easy victory at home. Tottenham proved they're still life without Harry Kane as they picked up their second straight 2-0 victory, this time over Bournemouth. Tottenham's North London rivals, Arsenal, were in a tough game against Fulham, London derby. Fulham went ahead and not even a minute into the game, but Arsenal would score via a Saka penalty, and Nketiah would score just 2 minutes later. And then Fulham went a man down. It looked done for the South London team, but Palhinha equalized in the 83rd minute, securing a point for each team. Brentford and Crystal Palace also drew. Wolves would get a late goal against Everton. They take the 1-0 win. Man U looked in trouble when they went 2 down 4 minutes into the match. But they battled back, got goals from Christian Eriksen and Casemiro to equalize. And then things went bad to worse for Forest as Joe Worrell was given a straight red for denying a clear goal opportunity. Then a questionable call on a Manchester United guy in the box led to a penalty. Bruno Fernandes scored from the spot, completing the Manchester United comeback at 3-2. I was worried about my West Ham visiting Brighton, as Brighton had won their first 2 games, scoring 4 in each game. But need not worry, my Hammers showed up big, stuck it to him 3-1. That's why I'm rocking the jersey today, West Ham. But yeah, James Ward-Prowse looking like the signing of the season. Another goal. Bowen and Antonio each got one. Pascal Gross scored for Brighton to get them on the board and ruin the clean sheet. But good on you, West Ham. Keep it up. Man City went to visit Sheffield United, take on the newcomers. It was a pretty good game. Like, Man City obviously dominated the ball, but Sheffield United would not quit. Eventually, the levee broke. Erling Haaland put the champs ahead. But then, 85th minute, citizens get shocked when Jaden Bogle equalized. Crowd went bananas for all of 3 minutes. That's when Rodri blasted the winning goal. Great fight by Sheffield United, but the champs are the champs for a reason. 3 points to Man City. Aston Villa looked great in their convincing win over Burnley. And the last game of the weekend was Newcastle hosting Liverpool. Best for last, I guess. What a game. Tension was high after Trent Alexander-Arnold was thrown out of bounds. Didn't get the call, so he threw the ball, which is a yellow. They said the refs are cracking down on that this year. If you throw the ball away after a whistle, you're getting a yellow, which is good. Time wasting. Fuck it. Nobody got time for that. But soon after that, he had a foul that could have been another yellow. This time the ref says, no, you're still in the game. I'm not giving a red this early. But then a back pass to Alexander-Arnold. He misplayed it terribly, left Anthony Gordon scoring. And then minutes later, Virgil van Dijk got a straight red in what the ref decided was a goal scoring opportunity that was taken away. I don't know. I thought it was debatable yellow at best, but regardless, Van Dijk was sent to the showers. I think this one might get overturned, much like McAllister's red card he got the previous game for Liverpool. During the week, they determined it was not red-worthy and took away a 3-game suspension. I think that's what will happen, but we'll see. But yeah, down a man on the road. It did not look good for Liverpool. Went in the 77th minute. Jurgen Klopp brought on Darwin Nunez. And man, the man from Portugal, he made his presence felt. Scored a beauty of a goal in the 81st to tie the game. And then he'd break Jordy Hart's in the 93rd with another great goal. Massive comeback for Liverpool. This game may have been directed by M. Night Shyamalan, but wow. Very entertaining. And after 3 games into the season, Man City has the only perfect record, but 4 teams are 1 point behind them. West Ham, Tottenham, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Jumped into the German side, fun weekend there. Harry Kane continues to thrive in Bavaria as he got a brace for Bayern Munich. I was watching some of the Bochum Dortmund game, and you could see the frustration in Dortmund as they could only muster a draw on the road against the newcomers. And RB Leipzig, they laid the boots to Stuttgart. Leverkusen did the same to Mönchengladbach. And late game heroics in the Mainz versus Eintracht Frankfurt game. 10-man Frankfurt equalized in the 91st minute. Very entertaining Bundesliga, and it's awesome it's on DAZN. I know not everyone likes DAZN, but I'm a DAZN user and having the Bundesliga there. Very nice. Serie A champions Napoli kept to their winning ways. 2-0 win over Sassuolo. AC Milan beat on Torino. Shocking results as Serie B winners. They beat Francis Salon. I can never get their name. They beat Atalanta 2-1. 10-man Verona beat Roma 2-1. And Genoa went to Lazio and beat them 1-0. Still 2 games to go on in that match week, which will be going on Monday. La Liga, Real Madrid needed a late Jude Bellingham goal to get the win over Celta Vigo. Osasuna went on to the road and beat Valencia. Villarreal and Barcelona treated us to a fun one. Barcelona jumped ahead with 2 first-half goals in a 3-minute span via Javi and Frankie de Jong, only for Juan Foyth and Alexander Sorloth to equalize before halftime. But then the 50th minute, Villarreal went ahead via Alex Baena. And again, another 3-minute span, Barca picked up 2 goals, this time by Ferran Torres and Robert Lewandowski. Girona also won their game against Sevilla, which kept them right in the thick of things with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Granted, it's early in the season, but still impressive on Girona to be involved with those teams. Last European stop, we'll stop in France for some Liga. There were some high-scoring draws. Nantes and Monaco tied at 3. Rennes and Le Havre drew at 2. PSG got an easy win at Lens, and via Mbappe scored twice, which makes it nice. Marseille and Metz, Strasbourg, and Reims all picked up win, but the biggest shot was Lorient stunning Lille 4-1. The last footy stop will be in North America. Lionel Messi made his long-awaited MLS debut against the New York Red Bulls, and he's participated in League Cups and whatnot, but not an MLS League match. And fans were a little disappointed with the Argentine starting the game on the bench, but Miami would go ahead in the first half via Diego Gomez's goal. In the 60th minute, the fans got what they came for. Messi came on. In the 89th minute, Messi does what Messi does, and that's score. Getting the goal, putting Miami up 2-0, and that's just how the game would end. That's propelled Inter Miami out of the worst team spot. Toronto FC is now the new owners of that. And FC Cincinnati still leads the East, while St. Louis SC leads the West. From the soccer field to the Dutch GP, F1 returned to the Netherlands after summer break, which is weird because I'd always go on summer break to the Netherlands, but that's for another short. This Grand Prix was a fun one. Not for newest AlphaTauri driver Danny Ricciardo, as he was having surgery on a broken hand as the race was going down. Liam Lawson filled in for him, and it was a routine start to the race until the sky opened up with some hard-hitting rain. Bottom of the standings on the track, they all went right into the pits to get those intermediate tires. Checo was one of the first, and it worked out for the Red Bull driver as Perez would come out of there and quickly go to the front. Max would follow suit and get to the second position. And then as the rain was stopping and the track was beginning to dry, Max changing the softer tires. This was before Checo made the call. And people were like, what? Why is he undercutting his teammate? And they were like, oh, this must have been a decision by Max. But no, they're saying it was a Red Bull call, not any of the drivers. So after that, Max was sitting first again, and later in the race, the skies would be like, you know what? More rain. And it came down really hard. Zhu crashed into the barriers. There was a red flag. They had to restart because, there was so much damn water on the track. But once they returned, it was a pretty drama-free restart. Max would hold on to take his 9th consecutive race, tying the record by Sebastian Vettel in 2013. Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly would finish up the podium. First podium for Gasly since Baku in 2021. But man, how about that Verstappen? He's going to have this title wrapped up in no time. Yikes. Alex Albon got big points for Williams, finishing 8th. Max's teammate Perez would wind up finishing 4th. Logan Sargent would crash out early. He looked very disappointed. Charles Leclerc, he also kept his Ferrari frustrations going when he couldn't finish. And as I mentioned, Zhu crashed during that downpour. A fun race, which had some changes without Max just leading the entire race. And for me, it was wild. I had 3 tabs going on the computer here. I had the Latvia-France game and the Mainz-Frankfurt game ending. And I had the race all coming to an end here. It was really cool. But we'll see if the Dutchman can set the record for most consecutive races, passing Vettel next weekend as we go to the Italian GP. Also starting around the time of this podcast, we're into the last Grand Slam of tennis, guys, the U.S. Open. It's that time of the year. Everyone floods the Flushing Meadows, New York, and it's an always exciting one played under the lights at Arthur Ashe Stadium. One of my favorites to watch, and the time zone makes it a lot easier than, the Aussie Open, right? The easy men's side choice would be another finals duel between Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, I look forward to that, but I'm looking for American Francis Tiafoe to go on a big run in front of the home crowd again. I'm seeing him to go deep in the tournament. The Americans are wanting a nice run from an American tennis star, so we'll see. I'm hoping Milos Raonic upsets Tsitsipas in the first round and goes on a run of his own, but we'll see. He's been kind of down for a while. On the ladies' side, I'm expecting Iga Swiatek to win this tournament. Usually I don't take one person over the field, unless we're talking peak Tiger Woods. But I think she'll bounce back from a disappointing Wimbledon to win her second straight U.S. Open. My wild card on the women's side, Sloane Stephens. I'm expecting her to have a breakout tournament as of late. Why not do it in front of the home crowd? Those are my picks. We'll see where we're at in a few weeks. Melancholy news in wrestling. Terry Funk, the legend, the hardcore legend, who's known all over the world for shithawkery in the ring. He passed away, 79 years old. He suffered from dementia in his older years, but well-respected fan. Everybody loved the Funk Man. And even more heartbreaking news, Bray Wyatt passed away, 36 years old. They're saying from a heart attack. He was on the road back from an illness, but great entertainer from a family rich in wrestling tradition. He was in a show in Saskatoon here. I remember the name didn't jump to me right away because I'm not as big in the wrestling as some people, like my man Brad. But I remember the lights went dim and he came out with the lantern. I was like, that's kind of dope. And that's our guy. So rest in peace to those wrestlers. Gave a lot to the wrestling community. They will be missed. Big hockey news, Austin Matthews is staying in Toronto. $53 million contract extension, giving him around 13.25 a year. People are saying it should have been longer, but hey, you got your guy. He's staying. Maybe stop bitching. Big fight in boxing. Alexander Usyk took on Daniel Dubois, and Usyk defended his WBA, WBO, and IBF crowns, which was all put up for the second time he's done that. And, Usyk dominated the beginning of the fight, but Dubois caught him with a low gut punch, brought him to his knees. I didn't think it was a low blow, but the ref determined it was an illegal punch and gave Usyk 5 minutes to recover. And recover he did. He won in the ninth round with a right hook to improve his record to 21-0 with 14 knockouts. He continued to call out Tyson Fury, saying, when are we fighting? Whenever he's done with whatever, I'll be ready. And we all know Fury is fighting a non-championship bout with MMA star Francis Ngannou October 28th. Hey, my mom's birthday. UFC, there was a big card with the Korean Zombie dropping the main fight against Max Holloway. It was big because after the match, the Korean Zombie announced his retirement and thanked everyone to help him get where he is. I'm not always the go-to for UFC information, but I do know of the Korean Zombie. He's a well-respected fighter, and he's done great things. So congrats to him on a career, and hopefully he does well wherever he does next. Quick WNBA shutout. Earlier in the week, we had Asia Wilson get criticized for her shitty play in the Commissioner's Cup final, and I think she was done here in that. She went off for 53 points, equalizing Liz Cambich's record in 2018. The only other person that hit 50 was Rakana Williams, hitting 51 back in 2013. And Asia Wilson did it on 70% shooting with 7 boards and 4 blocks. Dominant play, so it really looked good. The Sun, Lynx, Sky, and Sparks also picked up wins during the week. And really the biggest news, again, was that whenever the Aces lose, it's always big. And this time it was the Washington Mystics. Elena Del Don has returned from injury, and her high scoring with some balanced scoring helped knock the Aces off again for only, like I said, their 5th loss on the year. That's pretty wild. It's nice to see that this unbeatable team is actually beatable, and it should help as things progress to the end of the season into the playoffs. Last basketball mention's got to be Big Three. We haven't talked really about them all year, but Ice Cube's Big Three League came to a conclusion in O2 Arena in London. The All-Star game got some pretty good cred when Celtics' Jaylen Brown showed up. First time a current baller has showed up to participate in that league. And that led into the championship game, and it was a dandy. Jordan Crawford rattled home a three-pointer to give the enemies the Big Three championship. It's a fun little league. I like it. Like I said, it kind of gets lost in a lot of shit going on, but I still try to follow it and enjoy it. In golf, the FedEx Cup was given out. Victor Hovland prevailed. The Norwegian did great with a 5-stroke victory over Xander Schauffele. And this is the thing that blows my mind. $18 million for the win. That's bonkers. Straight up bonkers. Oh, man. And the NFL preseason came to a close. I know not a lot of people watch the preseason. I took a little gander in to see how the Packers are looking. It's the Jordan Love show now. Show me the love. But, yeah, the season starts September 7th. So next week we'll be having an NFL preview. Because, yeah, football. Anyway, that's the talk of the week in sports. Let's go to a ridiculous short. You know, this, like I said, this podcast had wild news from job-stealing secrets to a sexual assault witnessed by millions by a Spanish president. So where does that connect with this short? The only connection is chaos. This short jumps back in the time machine to a younger, trimmer Ren City. My buddies and I would occasionally get wild off Big Bears and Black Bulls. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're cheap malt liquor that is similar to a Colt 45, just a little higher alcohol percentage. Tasted like straight up piss. This was cheap though, and my income depended largely on how many cans I could snake from the school to get recycling money. Sure, these bins were there to help earn money for the school, but Ren City needed drinks, and he did not want to work for it. See, I can relate to the younger generation. So, this little bit of money you'd get, I couldn't exactly afford Chardonnays. So, Big Bears it was. Big Bear, he's iron tough. But, this one evening, I decided to funnel two, one after another. I was already pretty drunk, so this escalated things. Remember throwing up nonstop, and yeah, being pretty fucked up. My two homies, shout out Brad and Chris, took me to emergency, where I was quite belligerent, yelling at the staff, just total shit show. I actually got put down by a staff member who administered like a Vulcan death grip on me and like made me like sound like some kind of trank llama, but she put me down. The boys said I was a shit show, and I believe it. I don't recall a lot of what happened. They said at one point I farted real bad and said something, and the staff was like, "Pardon me," and I was like, "Poopy," or something like that. I don't think I shit. There was no skid marks to back that up, but that sounded like some shitty drunken behavior from yours truly. They hooked me up to an IV, pumped me full of liquids because I was dehydrated like a broken water fountain in the Serengeti, but Brad would eventually snag the IV bag, and I had it hung on my wall like a trophy head for some sick fuckery. It stayed there a while too, and everyone's like, "What is this?" "Oh, that's my IV bag from when a nurse took me down with a death grip." But anyway, weird things to be proud of. But yeah, the guys were driving me back to Warman, return this drunken beast to its lair. They said I'd stop at 7-Eleven, get a drink. You know, it's exhausting bringing your friend to emergency. So at this point, I was still a piece of shit, and I chastised them for stopping. Like, "What are you doing? Get me home." And like, I think on one point on the drive in, I like had a puke bag and I was rubbing it on Brad. Real garbage work by me, but I'm lucky they were patient that night and just didn't tie me to a cinder block and toss me over the bridge. Like, I mean, I'm pretty heavy, so this is probably the better option. But from there, I returned home, I guess. Woke up the next morning feeling like death. I had gauze and tape stuck to me. And yeah, I had no recollection really of what happened. They had to fill me in. I had bloodshot eye from, I guess I was leaning and fell into a wall. Just a shit show. One of those things that, you know, when you ache some mornings, you're like, "Why am I aching?" And then you're like, "Oh, that stupid moment." But yeah, regardless, thank my boys for having my back, not leaving me to die. Good crew. Good crew right there. I mean, I'm not a piece of shit right now, but I used to be. But no more sloppy steaks for this guy. But yeah, that's episode 25. We're in the books, quarter century. Thanks for coming along, guys. It's been a wild one. Red City out.